Jesus opened the eyes of the blind. He gave back to people the gift of sight. Vision is the faculty of sight. It is unusual competence in discernment or perception. That goes beyond looking at a thing. It is looking beyond a thing, looking into a thing, so that you have an unusual competence in the ability to discern what others miss. Webster says that a vision is a mental image produced by the imagination. It's deeper than that, Mr. Webster. He did the best he could. Vision has at its root, as we said on Xavier's Day, an idea. An idea is a well-developed thought. You know, in the comic books, whenever somebody had a brilliant thought or idea, they would put over their head a light, a bulb. That's it. Light got turned on in the guy's head. He saw something. He had an idea. But he really didn't have an idea. He had a thought. Because ideas are different from thoughts. Ideas, like thoughts, exist in the mind, potentially or actually as a product of mental activity. You can't have an idea or thought if your mind is not active. Brain waves on a machine that scans the activity of your mind, of your brain, shows an electrical energy in the brain that says this is alive. Electrical energy in the brain allows the brain to do what the brain is designed to do. Create thought, create image, create pictures. Listen, once you have a thought, that is a concept. When you say, sister has conceived, what do you mean? Sister has conceived. What do you mean? She's pregnant, right? Conception is not baby. The conception has all the necessary ingredients to make the baby. But now it needs a period of gestation and growth in the darkness of the womb so that conception becomes a fully developed child, baby, fetus. When thought germinates in the mind, if you don't continue to think on the thought, I want you to hear me. If you don't continue to think on the thought, then the thought without more thought only is a thought that comes and goes. And you will say when somebody else comes up with the thought, but thinks on the thought, they stole my idea. They stole my stuff. They making the money and I ain't got none. Dirty, low-down thief. Wait a minute, fool. You don't have any corner on thought. You don't have any specific corner on imagery. Many of you have good thoughts, but you do nothing about what you think. So the thought was an opportunity that you blew because you didn't do by the thought what you should have done. You got to think on the thought. You have to think on the thought. And thinking on the thought is feeding the thought. Then the thought develops into an idea. And that idea has with it a plan, a scheme, a method of fulfilling and concretizing what was a mental image that had potential, but now you want to actualize what you have envisioned. But if you even develop the idea or the thought into an idea and still will not work the idea, then God will give the idea to somebody else who will fulfill the idea and fulfill the vision brought by the idea. After the thought brings up a concept you've conceived, most people talk the thought, and the thought gets lost. It's like showing the baby before the baby is a baby. Who wants to see a clot but an abortionist? And most times we get a thought, we speak it before we think on the thought. Get it developed. And it must develop in darkness, like the womb of the female, the womb of the mind. Develop your ideas. Then develop the method, the plan of execution. The idea will bring up a picture of the completed thing. The picture is in your brain. You can draw it on a piece of paper so that you can keep the vision.
Greetings, listeners. I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful. I bear witness that there is but one God. Welcome to the Black Agenda here on the Street 919 FM. I am Brother David Muhammad, and I'm going to be in studio with you up to 9 o'clock this morning, inshallah. And in a short while from now, I will open up the telephone lines and take your calls on 342-0081 and 466-5391. You can send WhatsApp messages straight to me on 332-0214. And of course, we're on the social media pages of the Street 919 FM. Now, quite a few things to talk about today. Quite a few things. I want to talk about suicide a bit because Trinidad and Tobago, over the last few weeks, has been experiencing a spike in its suicide rates. But there's a bit of a deeper understanding that there is to be derived from this. So depending on how it goes, I might address that in the 8 o'clock hour, if not before. I also want to talk a bit about reparations for the crimes against humanity against African people in light of the recent visit of members of the royal family to the Caribbean and the rejection by many Caribbean peoples, in particular in Belize and Jamaica, to the presence of the royal family, the demanding of an apology and for reparations. And Prince William himself, who is really destined to be the King of England sometime soon. Sometime soon. My estimation will be at least within the next 20 years or so. So here the king, the future King of England, Prince William, the heir to the throne, in Jamaica made some statements about slavery being the most evil or the darkest hour of the United Kingdom. Now, some analysts are saying they are going to say anything except we are sorry for what we did. Someone was telling me yesterday that when members of the royal family, whether it's the Queen or Prince Charles or whoever it is, especially if it's an heir to the throne, that solicitors vet their statements so that they cannot be held culpable for slavery. So they've issued statements of regret, statements of sorrow. They've condemned the evil. It was a dark time in their history. It was the worst moment, the worst thing that ever happened, and all of that. But there's a very meticulous refraining from saying, we are sorry for what we did to you. And once that sentiment is avoided, and they stick to like, oh, we're sorry for what happened, or what happened was terrible. And this is why in the 10-point plan of action for reparations drafted by Professor Sir Hilary Beckles and agreed to by all 15 heads of government in CARICOM, step number 1 was a full, formal apology for slavery. Because for as long as that full, formal apology is not given, they are withholding their culpability. Europe is saying, oh, we're sad about this, but not accepting liability for it. And there's a lot of smartness and trickiness in that, you know. So I guess I'll use that to segue into what I want to start off talking about. So Prince William was in Jamaica, and there were all these protests and so on, but our young, brilliant, dynamic footballer, Raheem Sterling, who plays for the England national team, hands down the best footballer in England, or the best footballer on the England national team, I would say by far, Raheem Sterling, who was born in Jamaica, and he actually has a Raheem Sterling Academy. He actually had a cousin that used to play for San Juan Chablete some years ago in Trinidad, Jamaican as well, of course. So Raheem Sterling has an academy, a foundation in Jamaica for young children, and Prince William was a guest of his, and they played football together in Jamaica. So Prince William got a little bit of street credibility, and then he made the statements condemning slavery. All right, okay, all right. Good foundation for a good start, but the good start itself hasn't come yet. So we're watching future King of England and what you're saying about reparations. But this gives me the segue to get into, I'm going to come back to that though, reparations. But this gives me the segue to talk about what I want to talk about, what has been burning in my heart overnight. Now, yesterday was a very good day for Trinidad and Tobago sports. But it is a bitter-sweet moment. As you should know, there's currently a three-nations tournament taking place between Trinidad and Tobago, Barbados, and Guyana. And at the Hazley Crawford Stadium, yesterday, Friday, tomorrow, Sunday, and Tuesday, there are these three games hosted between those three teams from 7 p.m. at the Hazley Crawford Stadium. I urge us all to go out and support our national team, as always. Yesterday was the opening game where Trinidad and Tobago defeated Barbados 9 goals to nil. Now, these three countries all have Trinidadian coaches. Of course, Angus Eve is the current coach for Trinidad and Tobago. Russell Latipi, our legend, is the head coach of Barbados. And Jamal Shabazz, of course, has been off and on the head coach of Guyana a number of times. In fact, I think Guyana has enjoyed their most successful moments with Jamal Shabazz as head coach. He was also head coach for St. Lucia recently. And then there are other Trinidadians who are head coaches of Caribbean countries, like Coach Latru, who is the head coach for Dominica, and our own Stern John, who is the head coach for Anguilla. All right, this is very good for Trinidad and Tobago football. And of course, I was advocating for a local coach just before they fired the last one. So we have Angus Eve now. Excellent performance last night. 9 goals to nil. A lot of new young players. But something else happened last night that I'm a little concerned about. Happy about as well. And that is our league football got started. Now, this has been a huge problem for Trinidad and Tobago. Our league football, our pro league, now we have what is called the Ascension League. I am supporting it 100%. I want to make that clear. The national team, Trinidad and Tobago Soca Warriors, that's in my blood. And I still remain the longest serving manager of the Trinidad and Tobago national senior men's team. Over 120 games, about 25 countries. And I support 1,000%, of course, our league. And our league did not collapse because of COVID. No. If you look at the 2 years before we even knew what COVID was, our local league was in trouble and it had collapsed. Okay, I'm not going to get into that now. It wasn't because of COVID. Since 2019, our football was in trouble. So, last night now, in addition to the national team playing at the Hazley Crawford Stadium at 7 p.m., the league started back. And I am saying for the record, this should not have happened on the same day. It is disrespectful to the national football team to have league football on the same day, around the same time that the national team is playing. And to the best of my knowledge, I may be wrong, but I believe I'm right in saying this has never happened before. And to the best of my knowledge, this would not happen in any country where the sport of football is respected. And the ironic thing is, I was looking at the games on television after the Trinidad and Tobago game, and I thoroughly enjoyed the match between Defence Force and La Hocketa Rangers. And I'm looking at this game, and I'm seeing so many national footballers, former national footballers, some of them still nationals, playing on Defence Force and playing with Canoopia. That was a 1-1 draw. And then prior to that, not Canoopia, Defence Force and La Hocketa. That was a 1-1 draw. And then the game before that, Canoopia FC beat Westford with our brother Ron Lafferty 4-1. A lot of national footballers in there. A lot, quite a few. I saw maybe about 6 or 7. But to have that, and I was so happy to see league football once again in Trinidad and Tobago. And it was very heavily promoted. It was live on TV6. They got some of the best commentators to come out at the same time that the national team was playing football. This should have never happened. This is disrespectful. I'm still supporting the Ascension League, 100%. But that, I'm telling you, should not have happened. I'm out of football now. Y'all could say what you want. Because the last time I had a couple opinions, a lot quietly said, yeah, wow, because we had four foreign white coaches, all of them failing. Men's team, women's team, junior team, beach soccer team, futsal team. 4 foreign white coaches, all of them failing. Meanwhile, we have Trinidadian coaches all across the Caribbean. Okay, so the aftermath of that, Angus Eve, who is our most capped player in the history of Trinidad and Tobago football, he is now the head coach of Trinidad and Tobago. Excellent. But you see, to have league football playing while the national team is playing is damn disrespectful. When I was the manager of the national team and we had a situation like that, we would have a meeting. This would have happened at least, I can't remember exactly how many times, but at least 3 or 4 times. We would have had a meeting with the pro league coaches. And we would come together, we'll sit in the conference room, and we'll say, well, the national team has scheduled a match on this date at this time. And the pro league clubs, Jablati, W Connection, Northeast Stars, Defence Force, Police, Central FC, whoever it was, they would agree, along with the cooperation of the Pro League, to reschedule their games. And you know what? I never even appreciated this as much until maybe long after. But we will meet with the heads of each of the teams. And they will say, okay, national team is playing on, say, July 1st, and we have a Pro League game scheduled for July 1st. All right, we will postpone it or change the date, but the national team takes top priority. As a matter of fact, sometimes it wasn't even the same day. If it's within the same time period. So let's say the national team has a game on the 1st, or say the 3rd, and there's a Pro League game on the 1st or 2nd, then they will postpone it then too. But to have that playing at the same time as the national team, that will never happen in any country that respects football. So congratulations to the Soca Warriors on their 9-0 victory over Barbados. Trinidad and Tobago play next on Tuesday evening, 7 p.m. at the Hasely Crawford Stadium in Port of Spain. And also there's a game tomorrow as well, but which will be between Barbados and Guyana. Also 7 o'clock at the Hasely Crawford Stadium. So congratulations to the Soca Warriors. Big win for Angus Eve and the team. But also congratulations to the Ascension League on the kickoff of what looked like a very well put together, because that was a big crowd. There was a big crowd last night in La Joqueta. Big crowd. It was great to see that. And I'm going to be supporting that league, like I said. But that which happened last night, having the league playing at the same time that the national team was playing, y'all may not want to say anything, but I am saying it was disrespectful, and you all know that it was wrong. You all know that. So, but I think it's every Friday at 8 o'clock, and they're showing it live on TV6. That is very good. That is very good. And the advertisements on television, you know, I mean, it's been years since I've seen that kind of sensationalization for local football. It was really good. But I hope that doesn't happen again on terms of playing at the same time as the national senior team. All right. Couple of things I want to mention. At the Kwame Ture Center, we have a number of activities taking place over the next couple months or so. Now, of course, the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago is scheduled to have a media conference this afternoon at 2:30, and it is expected, or at least it was hinted, that there may be the removal of more restrictions. I think some people in the country probably did the impression that all restrictions were removed yesterday, because I heard there was a lot of activity in a lot of other places. I mean, I'm not talking about the football, but a lot of activity in a lot of other places. All right, good. So it looks like we're opening back up. So that will be confirmed at 2:30 this afternoon. But on April the 16th, as we would have hosted at the Kwame Ture Center in 2018 and 2019, before the pandemic hit in 2020, we host the public speaking workshops. And yes, we're back in 2022, and the public speaking workshops will be resuming from April the 6th. And so you can come in to register for them and get more information. I will also give you a number that you can contact to get more details on registration. So, just looking for the flyer, but I'll get it in a moment. Or Mr. Josiah, can you please send over that flyer. Was it Khalid who sent it? All right, we'll get it shortly. Right, here we go. So you can call Mr. Josiah on 762-2007. Miss Henry on 313-6499. Or Mr. Roberts on 392-1748. The first session will be Saturday, April 16th from 3 p.m. All the sessions will be from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. and it is 10 Saturdays. And registration will take place officially on the 2 Saturdays before, the 2nd and the 9th, from 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. But you can call those numbers for more information. So once again, 762-2007. All right? That's for the public speaking workshop. We didn't have it for 2 years due to the pandemic, but it's coming back with a bang. Very impacting, very effective workshop that equips you with a very vital skill. Okay? Now, also, our Girls Academy, again, that was running sessions in 2018 and 2019, of course, was on pause a bit. I think there was a session, they had sessions last year. But the Girls Academy is also back, and there are going to be 2 sessions for the girls at the Kwame Ture Center. These are on Sundays. So the 2 scheduled sessions are April the 10th and April 24th. Brother Frank, I hope you're listening. All right. And you know, of course, it's always great to see the families bringing in their daughters, getting them involved. But the single fathers with daughters who are so passionate about this program as well. April 10th and April 24th, the Girls Academy at the Kwame Ture Center. April 19th, we're having an art exhibition of the work of our beloved sister, Valerie Belgrave. And her art is going to be displayed at the Kwame Ture Center for a week. Now, Sister Valerie Belgrave was one of those students in 1969 for the Black Power Revolution, who was at the St. George Williams University in Canada, where Trinidadian students who were protesting racism at the university in Canada were detained and held for property damage. So our sister Valerie Belgrave, of course, she has since passed on, but she was an artist, a thinker, a cultural icon of sorts in her own right, and her son, Shane Belgrave, will be hosting an art exhibition of his mother's work. So that will be from April 19th. The reason April 19th was chosen is because that is the day that the state of emergency was called for the 1970 Black Power Revolution. So that is a Tuesday, I believe. Also, we will be honoring our beloved brother Clive Nunes on that day. Again, we were planning to honor Clive Nunes for his role in the 1970 Black Power Revolution and his consistency with speaking to our youth in particular. We had that scheduled for April 19th, 2020. And of course, due to the pandemic, it was canceled or postponed. So that will be April 19th, 2022. Okay. Most likely our Eid celebration would take place around May the 1st. Then, once again, it didn't happen in 2020, didn't happen in 2021, but for 2022, once again, we're back with our African Unity Conference. This will be our 9th year for our African Unity Conference, which is our celebration of African Liberation Day, May 26th. Conference this year, we always have it on the Saturday closest. So that will be May 28th, Saturday, May 28th. And then I'm announcing now, of course, we're going to talk more about it, but I'm announcing now for the first time, our plan is to launch again. Last year, we had planned the launch of our Boys Academy for June the 5th last year. Then we went under total lockdown. We are looking at June 16th. I actually had a press conference on May the 1st at the Kwame Ture Center announcing this before the lockdown went into full effect last year. But we're looking at June 16th for the Kwame Ture Boys Academy. We have a mentorship structure of the men who come in the organization bring in 2 youth. And we build like that, like a pyramid. All right? So, there's a lot happening there. But next week, beloved, next week, inshallah, next week, Sunday, we're scheduled to begin our fast for the holy month of Ramadan. So tomorrow morning, I'm lecturing at the Kwame Ture Center, 11 o'clock. And we're going to talk about this spiritual journey and the spiritual preparation for engaging in the fast for the month of Ramadan, how it is done, what the benefits are, the methods that are used, how it can enrich your life in all dimensions. And also we're going to talk a bit about a system for us not just growing our own food, but selling our own food and circulating economic opportunities within and among us, centered around the food we consume. It's a heavy subject, beloved. Creating an agricultural empire, a network of black-owned restaurants, food manufacturers, black farmers, and reclaiming our health through food and fasting for the month of Ramadan. So that lecture is tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, at the Kwame Ture Education Center in Success, Laventille. All right, so I won't get into suicide now. We'll deal with that, say, at the beginning of the 8 o'clock hour, God willing. So let me open up our telephone lines. 342-0081 and 466-5391. Caller, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Are you still in my brother David Muhammad?
Yes, sir.
Brother David, I saw you last week. I tried to get to it, but I couldn't get to it. It's a stuff about pinch me and Jama.
Right, yes.
Anyway, Brother David, first thing I want to say, I have 3 points this morning. First, I want to thank the former Prime Minister, Mr. Manning, for what he has done for the elderly in this country and for the young people in this country. I remember seeing Mr. Manning at one time going to a meeting in Fivers, and he was walking through the crowd going to the podium, and you could see on his face the compassion he showed on the both sides as he walking in towards the people. It's like he's saying to myself, I will help you all. I will help you all once I get in there. And he did it. Did it for the young, did it for the old. So when you go to the passport office and you don't have to pay, you go to the license department, elderly, and you don't have to pay, you buy the boat, you ride the one going south to Tobago, Mr. Manning. When the young people who are doctors and lawyers today, who are professionals, you understand, they have to thank the former Prime Minister, Mr. Manning, for what he did, you understand, for the people of this country.
Absolutely.
The small business have to thank him. He did it. You can see the compassion in him, you understand? And when he realized that he was going to vote against him, you understand? He called the election, he lost it, and his own supporters, they treat him worse than a dog, you understand? It's sad, you understand? But even in this country, every time they have to give African people something, it looks like you're begging, but they're doing a favor. Indian get land, the Indian get land in this country, they continue to get land. The last minister who gone there, he give them title for land. In Tobago, you understand? The first people they give land is those who just come the other day. They give them title for the land. And to see an African woman, you understand? You join and pull in, you understand, to get a chance to get a piece of land or a house. And to see they have you, after that, crying on television, like do you a favor, when your ancestors came here and prepared the land that everybody's living. It hurt me when I see that sister on television last week or before, crying and say she's so happy. When the Indians get into power, you know what they do? All when they have squatting land, they put road access. Road access, you know, they do it down in Piaco down there. They do it up in the Balance there. They do it down inside Ampage. They do it all wherever they are. They don't say nothing. They just get it. And they keep begging and saying they want and they give it. And our ancestors, we can't get. In Tobago, people have living on the ancestral land and they don't have the title. You ain't give it to them. You have them begging on television that disgrace. Whenever they give a apartment from the HEC to somebody, they say 20 years this person waiting, and they have them crying on the television. When they give in the single unit, you understand, under the UNC, to the people, you don't see nothing, you don't hear nothing. It's a sad thing, you understand, in this country. And you know the truth, man? We have people who would support, you understand, the government, you understand, the government, and seeing, you understand, that the government not really seeing about the people, because UNC they see about the people and the support, and then they come in on your program to take all the time, you understand, to talk about the politics. We need our people business. But David, in this country, not in this country, Africa as a whole, we lived in a village, in a community, you understand? In that community, you never go to and pay a visit to a family or a relative without walking with a gift. That is African culture, you understand? When you go to a christening, they pass a hat, and everybody put money in that hat. That is the start for that infant that has come forward. This is our culture. This is what we have. This is what we lost it today. You understand? And people also concerned is that this government they care about African people. You know? They care about the rich, the Chinese, you understand, the Syrians, and they don't care about us. If they care about us, the land that was given only to Indians under the UNC with the land business, with the land free land left. You know what they'd have done? They'd have balanced it off. They'd have gone inside there and said, listen, all they put on the papers was ID card number. They didn't put the names. You know, so what we're going to do now, we're going to go through now and give land to the African people who then get balance it off. You understand? They never do it, and they will never do it for that event. It's so sad in this country. See how we have been treated by our own people. And then when they put the UNC, they know what they do. They give you a little token thing, make you a little step up gang something, and you feel, you understand? You don't get nothing. They give their people. The people will get. You know, it's so sad, Brother David.
Yeah.
It hurt me when I have a community program and taking all the time and talking about politics.
All right. Yes, sir. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Caller, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you here?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for that opening statement. And you know one of the reasons for that? We do not have a black lobbyist that lobby for us when we pay them. That is our problem.
With what? With the football?
No. With the land and farming.
Oh.
And getting something. Because we are not together. You see what you said this morning about we having come together and plant and create businesses and eat what we grow and we eat more healthy?
Yep.
That's happening. You see what's going on in Ukraine and Russia? If we don't get that quickly together, we don't import nothing. Everything that is imported, and who want to say it is racist, that is their choice, but this is the fact. 95% or 85% of the goods that are imported in Trinidad and Tobago for us to eat are imported by one race of people.
And I actually saw some new faces, some faces that I never saw before, who are apparently in charge of food importation. We'll have to continue our conversation after the break, but thanks for calling. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
The views expressed are not necessarily the views of the management of the Street 919 FM.
Let's go. See when I tell you what I tell you. See when I tell you what I tell you. See when I tell you what I tell you. What I tell you, what I tell you, what I tell you, what I tell you. Let's go, let's go. We are something special here, very special here, something special here. We are something special here, very special here, something special here. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. Very special, no doubt. See when I tell you what I tell you, no doubt. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. It seemed like forever and a day we've been on this ride. And all the things that you do for me, my gratitude I can hide. And all the ups and downs turn around, you're always right by my side. And now I'm walking and standing tall and holding my head up high. When you turn wrong, you turn around. Take my front, turn it upside down. Take my words and you make a song. Take my short and you make it long. Keep my feet firmly on the ground. When I'm weak, yeah, you make me strong. So for you now, I sing this song. Everybody hands up and sing it with me. We are something special here, very special here, something special here. We are something special here, very special here, something special here. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. Very special, no doubt. See when I tell you what I tell you, no doubt. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. Where we going, where we going, where we going? We up and down, we all around. We going country, we going down. We going east, we going west. You know we friendship, it is the best. We up and down, we all around. We going country, we going down. We going down to the ground, 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 to the ground. We are something special here, very special here, something special here. We are something special here, very special here, something special here. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. Very special, no doubt. See when I tell you, what I tell you, no doubt. See when I tell you, when I tell you, no doubt. When I tell you, when I tell you, I tell you, when I tell you. I say what I tell you, when I tell you. I mean it. I tell you, when I tell you, what I tell you, when I tell you. I mean it. I'm telling you what I tell you, when I tell you, when I tell you, what I tell you.
Looking for a safe and relaxed professional massage therapist and nutritionist? Look no further. Nature's Touch with Empress Judy and Associates offers a natural approach to better health. Treat yourself to a professional massage therapy and nutrition advice in a safe and relaxed atmosphere. Rejuvenate your body, mind, and soul at Nature's Touch Therapy. For an appointment, please call or WhatsApp 1-868-398-8282 or visit our Facebook page. Remember, your health is our responsibility at Nature's Touch.
Conscious talk, where we are at and where we are going. We cannot redo injustice, but we can move on and achieve in anticipation if there may be changes to what we have been wronged about. It's Conscious Talk.
Voices on the ghetto.
Get ready! Pretty British, Brother J, and Ali Berry presents Caribbean Soca Madness Part 1. Drink your water and mind my business.
I go drink water and mind my business.
Saturday, April 16th at the Onyx venue, 27A Queensway, Bletchley, Milton Keynes, featuring the big band in the business. percussionist Iwer George.
Yes, and this is me, Iwer George, the big boss in the business. April 16th, Soca Madness Part 1. Yes, I'm going to be in London. I'm coming to shell it.
If I had one wish, mash up the place. One more time, mash up the place. Shell on the place. And Skinny Fabulous.
You know what I'm saying, yo, London, April 16th. It's all about the Caribbean Soca Madness Part 1. I will be there.
Will be everyone blinking bad. All the friends I'm thinking bad. Music by DTTP, Rigo Suave, the Stage God, Selector G, Survival Number 1, and DJ Winks. Tickets available on Eventbrite UK. Early bird tickets, £25 from March 6th. For more info, call Allison at 447588376951. Trini British 447404-050703. And Brother J 447508862718. Saturday, April 16th. Caribbean Soca Madness Part 1. London, it's your turn.
This is real comedy.
Dan, I want to know what I really doing here. What is I doing here? I'm not Shimano. No.
Major Issues, the tour.
With the Caribbean King of Comedy,
Major Hype.
Do you, Miss Mitzi Renita Brown, take? Yes, me take him. Me take him a long time.
On Saturday, March 26th.
Showtime, 8 p.m. sharp.
At Napa, Port of Spain. Tickets are $350 for a limited time only.
Get yours now at all Cache outlets.
Anton's Gold Rush, Castro's in Arima,
Larry's, Francis Plaza, Chaguanas.
or online at islandytickets.com. Major Hype is on his way to Trinidad.
Well, I just found and give a little one check.
For a comedy show like you've never experienced.
Backed by Ziggy Rankin and Order.
This is the release you need.
Get your tickets early. All COVID protocols are in place.
For more info, call 779-5755. Brought to you by Cache and Anton's Gold Rush.
Better vision for your physical eyes, and through the eyes of faith, let healing arise in your mind, body, and spirit. At Natural Healing Ministries, we teach kingdom principles for living that brings the blessing of God to your mind, body, and soul.
NHM Professional Associates are located at number 10 Moody Stewart Street, Monterey Post, San Fernando. For more info, contact Dr. Desmond Phillip at NHM on 349-3494.
NHM Professional Associates can be heard live on the Street 919 FM every Saturday from 9:05 to 9:55 a.m.
Blessings in the wonderful name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You are invited to listen to the Final Hour broadcast heard every Monday from 12 midnight to 5 a.m. in the morning on the Street 919 FM radio. Here my mom, Pastor Helen Garcia, and myself, Pastor Valentine Garcia Jr., preach the Word of God to the elderly, youth, and children. We can be contacted at 629-0113 or 623-8444. The church is located at 26 Prince Street in Port of Spain. We look forward to you joining us. God bless you.
As my life I lay it on the altar, as my life.
From the studio to the stage, every Friday between 3 to 4 p.m. right here on the Street 919 FM. Radio you can see. Log on to our Facebook and YouTube so you can see live interviews and performances from some of our very own local superstars. Right here on the Street 919 FM.
Dynamic crew alongside Iwer George presents Soca Come. Featuring the boss himself, Iwer George. Iwer George. The boss man of Soca.
Yo, this is Iwer George, the big boss in the business, and I'm going to be in Grand Cinnamon on the 14th of April, Canada, forward the 6th.
It's all going down the 14th of April at the Grand Cinnamon Banquet and Convention Center, Toronto, 3895 McNichol Avenue, Toronto, Ontario, 9 p.m. till. Tickets are just $35. Get them now at ticketgateway.com. Hey, so all your link up Dynamic Crew. It's all about Soca. Featuring Iwer George in concert.
Share the live. Share the live. The Street 919 FM on Facebook and Instagram. Share the live. Iowa George on Instagram. Share the live. Iowa TV and Street TV on YouTube. Share the live. The Street 919 FM.
Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. Brotherhood is obligatory.
Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen.
So there's a need for brotherhood.
Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen. Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen.
Brotherhood is demanded.
Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen.
Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. Brotherhood is obligatory. Brotherhood is essential, it is urgent, and it is compulsory. But the time demands brotherhood. Whenever the dominant white society fears for its economic future, racial tensions are always aggravated. The aim of Almighty God is to bring the black man and woman together. The aim of Almighty God is that we, no matter how divided we have been in the past, must experience unity in order to gain the success that we seek and the progress that we desire. There is no way that a divided people can build a future. Brotherhood is required. Brotherhood is demanded. So there's a need for brotherhood. But if you walk the earth proud and arrogant, you never learn your lesson because you think you already know. And how the hell could you know and be in the shape that we're in? How can there be any brotherhood if there's not even the honoring of a word?
Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen. Black man get up, black man stand up, black man you better listen. Black man get up, black man stand up, black man.
All right, so welcome back and welcome to the second hour of the Black Agenda here on the Street 919 FM, going up to 9 o'clock. I'll just remind you very quickly of some of the things that we would have informed you about in the first hour. So the public speaking workshop is resuming on April 16th. Very powerful capability. Get the youth involved, get the young people involved, bring out the children. Registration will start on April the 2nd. But if you want more information about the public speaking workshops, you can call Mr. Josiah, our beloved brother, expert in the field. You can call Mr. Josiah on 762-2007. That's for the public speaking workshop. Resuming April 16th, but you want to register early, so call Mr. Josiah, 762-2007. Then the Girls Academy, they had some magnificent sessions last time around. The Girls Academy for children and young teenagers, teaching the value of themselves as women, as girls, their African heritage, the great, magnificent black women who have been worldwide achievers and their biographies, where they started from. There are group activities, sessions teaching knowledge. It's a really, really magnificent effort by the sisters. So the Girls Academy are having sessions on April the 10th and 24th at the Kwame Ture Center. And then, well, we have the art exhibition from our beloved sister Valerie Belgrave, her son. Valerie Belgrave was one of the students who were detained at the Sir George Williams University in Canada, that sparked off, one of the Trinidadian students that sparked off the 1970 Black Power Revolution. And, of course, our African Unity Conference this year is May 28th at the Kwame Ture Center. And then after that, we launch the Boys Academy, which will be June 16th, inshallah. All right, so just giving you an overview. Now, I want to talk a little bit about suicide. Because in Trinidad and Tobago, in 2022, there has been this spike in the number of cases of suicides, and this has raised concern in many quarters. But did you know that the first ever sociological study that used the scientific method for research in sociology, the first ever research study that was done formally, officially in sociology, was on suicide? Yep, the very first official sociological research was done by Emile Durkheim, who is seen as the father of structural functionalism, this idea that society is made up of interconnected, interrelated parts that are like the organs in a human body. So you have the education system, the health system, the law, the government, the security systems, food production, the economy. And all of these different agencies in society work together like body parts: the head, the heart, the lungs, the liver, the kidney, the bladder. And that in their interconnectivity, they function with an interdependency on one another. And this is how society is able to be stable. So that idea of structural functionalism was established by Emile Durkheim, who also wrote Rules of the Sociological Method, and the first research that he did was on suicide. Now, why would he have chosen suicide to do this study on? And it was because of, in the years that followed the Industrial Revolution, the late 1700s going into the 1800s, where a system of capitalism was introduced, which saw the division of labor and a hierarchy or bureaucracy within society, and the emergence of private property ownership. So the more industrialized society became, the more people felt alienated, and suicide rates started to go up so rapidly that Emil Durkheim decided to do this first study. And he concluded that people commit suicide based on two factors, which are integration and regulation. Integration meaning the degree to which you as an individual become part of the society or integrated into the society. And regulation meaning the degree to which you are controlled by the society. Your morals, your values, your beliefs, etc. And Durkheim identified 4 different types of suicide: egotistic, altruistic, anomic, and fatalistic. And each of the 4 were dependent on those 2 factors, integration and regulation being either high or low. So the first kind of suicide, egotistic suicide, was committed by those who felt they had a low level of integration into the society. One who does not feel a part of a social group, or someone who does not have a sense of belonging, or like they're not making a difference to society. So they have an egotistical suicide. The next kind, altruistic, was the result of high levels of social integration into the society. So when a group dominates the life of an individual to a degree where they feel meaningless to society, almost the feeling of being lost in a crowd because one is too highly integrated into the society. Then there was anomic suicide, which results from low regulation by the society. Now remember, in a society we're socialized. We learn the culture, which is the way of life or system of behavioral patterns within a social group. So if we are low in being regulated or controlled by the society, then persons who become too consumed by being in that situation, then they commit anomic suicide, which stems from the term anomy, meaning a sense of aimlessness or despair that arises from the inability to reasonably expect life to be predictable. That grief, that sorrow, that sadness, that absence of joy that may drive one to be suicidal. And then the 4th kind was fatalistic suicide, when one feels that their life is directionless, following the same routine over and over, which is a high level of social regulation. So these 4 types of suicide were identified by Emil Durkheim after he observed that suicide rates were increasing because of capitalism. And that all of these changes that capitalism brought to society were making it difficult for some to cope. And then Durkheim identified 5 general factors as to why individuals were committing suicide, which are 1, individualism, again feeling isolated, not regulated or controlled by society, feeling aloof or separate, no family, no friends, no love. 2nd, excessive hope for success out of capitalism. Now this factor was one of the strongest influences of capitalism, because what capitalism has done is it can make you feel like a failure if you don't have money. And people are driven into depression out of poverty. especially if one is identified as having achieved or accomplished basic levels of education or attainment, and still has to struggle so hard under social pressures to survive economically. That feeling that we're in a capitalist environment, but I have not prospered, that also Durkheim saw as leading to suicide. Too much freedom, not controlled by norms, of course, as we pointed out, not enough social regulation. He also identified atheism, the disbelief in a God in one's life, that one can be given an inspirational reason to continue living, and also the decline of the influence of the family. Another major factor that resulted out of capitalism. Because prior to capitalism or the Industrial Revolution, it was family first. Family was the first priority. But with capitalism, economics became the first priority and family became second. And proof for this is seen in how a family will relocate, move out of one neighborhood into another one, leave one country and go to another one for a better job, for a better economic opportunity. The father going away, the mother going to America to work for 6 months, for a year, for 2 years, leaving so-called barrel children in sibling households where the eldest child becomes the parent figure over the younger siblings. So family is now the second priority, but economics is the first. Because if I can go to another place, if I can abandon the family to go somewhere else to work for more money, then that is a welcomed priority. And this decline in the influence of the family, Emile Durkheim also saw as a factor contributing towards suicide. So in Trinidad and Tobago now, with our blend of different cultures, there are different ways that we will consider these effects of capitalism. And of course, one interesting statistic over the week said that more men commit suicide than women, but in some cases more women attempt suicide and do not actually, or are not able to actually complete the act of taking their own lives. Also by ethnicity, in the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, and Suriname have much higher suicide rates than the other Caribbean countries, largely because the largest statistic of members of the East Indian community who culturally have turned to suicide more than persons of African descent. This is a fact that some link to religious beliefs. So because of the East Indian populations in Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, and Suriname, those three countries have the highest suicide rates. But of course, it is not confined to one race, one age group, one gender, one ethnicity. All right? But what we have to be concerned about is the fact that now in 2022, we have seen this particular spike in suicide rates. And again, if we are honest in our studies on suicide, if we are honest about it, then we would bear testimony that capitalism has something to do with it. And even in the cases, which is pretty common, the typical scenario of a quote-unquote broken love affair or a romantic relationship that has gone bad and a suicide resulting from that, you can still, in such a case, either directly or indirectly, in some of the cases, recognize factors resulting from capitalism that are either directly or indirectly linked, okay? So we cannot totally ignore economic factors, because even when a man and a woman are in a romantic relationship together and one of them becomes so unhappy with the situation that they feel that they have to take their own lives, it could also be that there are economic factors that have been a catalyst behind either the breakdown of the relationship in the first place, or more indirectly or even directly, the inability to provide financially. Okay? So obviously we're going to continue to look at that situation in our society, but this recent spike is a troubling increase, and it is the kind of situation as well that one should seek help for if they're having those kinds of thoughts. But one last thing on that, though, because Emile Durkheim's study was done in 1897, and again, it was done due to what was observed as changing influences on social life due to capitalism, which was introduced alongside the division of labor after the Industrial Revolution, late 1700s, early 1800s. But did you know, and I'd pointed out that suicide was the first ever sociological study, official sociological research study that was done, ever. But did you know as well that a lot of suicides are linked to medications? And you will notice that many, please listen and read the fine print, listen to the advertisements, and read the fine print on a lot of these medications. Because in many of them, the side effects are suicidal thoughts. Now, where did that come from? So you taking a tablet for high blood pressure, blood sugar spikes, for various ailments, skin disorders, various diseases, and you taking a tablet to heal one symptom, and one of the side effects of that tablet is suicidal thoughts. Now, of course, not everyone who has suicidal thoughts would end up committing suicide, but the weaker among those might be more inclined to commit suicide, especially if they're already having problems and they're taking medication of which a side effect is suicidal thoughts. You may be driving on the highway and a big Mack truck is coming top speed in the opposite direction, and you're just hit with a flash of the thought of driving in its way. What will happen? Or you're up on some tall building and you're just there and you took some medication and the thought just rushes into your head. What would it be like if I were to jump over this banister 20 stories down, or whatever the case may be? Listen, there's one statement that they say in psychology, that everything in psychology is biological. Imagine that. Everything in psychology is biological. And this is the difference between microsociology and psychology. The difference between microsociology and psychology is that microsociology, some of its theories, are like psychology without the biology. But imagine that your brain's thinking patterns can be altered by chemistry. And the thing is, when you have an experience something that makes you happy, something that makes you angry, something that makes you sad or upset, something that makes you pensive or that makes you reflect, engage in deep thinking. Every time your mind changes over any of these kinds of issues, chemical alterations occur within your biological system. And you take in this medication and you're starting to think about suicide. Oh, that's rough. That's rough. So for this month of Ramadan, I'm telling you. So tomorrow morning, our lecture is going to cover a lot of these kinds of issues. So inviting you out, Kwame Ture Center, tomorrow morning, 11 o'clock, for my lecture on the benefits and the preparation for fasting for the month of Ramadan, creating a black economic food distribution system. Minister Farrakhan once said, all of those so-called revolutionaries, you will never win your battle if at the end of the war you have to go and get your meal from your enemy's kitchen. That's kind of like how we're living right now. A lot of us are eating food that comes from our enemies. Wow. All right, let me go back to our phone lines. 342-0081 and 466-5391. We're going up to 9 o'clock. Caller, good morning.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, how are you?
I am good, give thanks.
Great.
I want to endorse the first caller, and I'll say why so much, because you can feel the pain in his voice, in the injustices, and because I feel the same way. The man with the scrap iron dealing is another one who is always pleading and crying. I don't hear any other race of people have to come on the radio and beg and plead as when we do, as we have to. Also, this prince and they that come down in the Caribbean, I'm not impressed with anything that they do. They have to beef things up because of the times that we're living in now. It's not long ago they used to just have little children lying in the street and they quickly pass by in a car where you just see a hand shaking at you. They can't do that now. So they come and do other little things to make people feel, but I'm not impressed. Come out and say that you're sorry for what has been done to people in slavery. And then you're going to make some impressions with me. But apart from that, coming and doing all these little things and enjoying yourself and celebrating this nonsense that you all still perpetuating, that to me is wrong. But added to which, with the suicide thing, I wonder, what it is going on with this, because you have a standard of life. I mean, during the Great Depression and all of that, there are a lot of people who committed suicide because their standard of living dropped drastically. I don't know if anybody here in our island that have the type of life to say, well, you're going to be losing out so much if you go through a little hardship. What hardship? You have 2 cars that you sold. Sometimes it makes you wonder what is involved. What is involved? Because you have a family that you say that you can leave your children and leave you in the care of this person and that person. You sold 2 cars before you decided. I cannot understand it. Can't understand it. But the thing about it is it's happening, But to me, there is you want to say what else is involved. I don't know if it's I am the only person thinking so, But anyways, thank you so very much for your enlightenment on the study of with suicide. Never knew that.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, again.
Yes, sir.
That is why I told someone, if you check suicide and what time it happens across Guyana, Suriname, and in Trinidad and Tobago, check when the rate of suicide goes up. What administration is in office?
What?
Listen to what I'm saying. You see what is preached to their supporters? That is why you got a pink hair man here. Got a man with some pink hair come here and do a study on Trinidadians. And he also to make my point. Depends on what is being preached towards society on the level of crime and hardship. Because you just said a man did a study and he came up with several theories, politics being one. That is why the gentleman said to them he sold 2 cars because of economics. And what is being preached about society that he listens to who it's coming from impacts on the psychological thought. Isn't that what the gentleman just told you? The man who did the study, how long? That is the point he's making, sir.
He didn't. Well, you said politics.
Yes.
He didn't say politics. He said capitalism.
And capitalism brings what?
No, he said. Well, you're saying that. That's your link from your scientific research, I guess. But the study by Emile Durkheim, first of all, he was fascinated by the fact that with the spread of capitalism, suicide rates were going up. Right, and he looked at 2 factors.
Capitalism is what we call politics.
No, it's not. Capitalism is what Dr. Eric Williams compared to slavery.
Money, because slavery was abolished, so you have to pay. And then people demand certain rights.
Yeah, but we haven't been paid as yet. The white people were paid.
The reason why everybody is against Russia, because Russia is not a capitalist country. That is why Russia has a war today, and the whole world is against Russia, but they ain't showing you how the other side, everybody's showing you how Russia killing so much people in Ukraine, but nobody, so Ukraine are fighting back against Russia. If you understand my point. So in Trinidad and Tobago, there is a group of people, as you outlined, East Indian people commit suicide more than any other people in the Caribbean.
Yes.
And I'm saying to you, depends on what their followers hear from their leaders.
You're saying that's why people commit suicide, because of what they hear from their leaders?
Yes. What is preached about the society and how... And let me explain you something. I happened to turn on my news last night.
Caller, that's kind of... That's not kind of...
That's the fact. If you have a message.
Sir, I'm suggesting to you that what you're saying is bordering... One second. What you're saying is bordering on ridiculous. Okay? I don't know. The theory is that it was observed that with the rise of capitalism, suicide rates also went up. So in the scientific research that Emile Durkheim did, he looked at 2 factors. One, the degree of which an individual is socially integrated into the society. And second,
financial position and what he had lost or what he gave.
Second, the degree to which an individual is controlled by society.
If he loses something, is how society views him.
Jeez.
And because of how society views him, he decides to take it. He decides to take his life because he feels let down because of his actions or what transpired in the society based on whoever do what. Because if I explain something, I hear people talk. Look, I tell you last night I have to turn on my television. And there is a debate in Parliament against crime. Not by the opposition. But I had a past Attorney General just recently went and take the state to court to get bail for murderers. Right? So here the argument in the Parliament yesterday. The opposition had nothing to do with the bill. But they include, with that amendment that went to the parliament, that is the opposition, the far-past attorney general, and that has nothing to do with the opposition, as we understand, right? But they are using that in the parliament. Just give me a minute to tell the government here what's going on. Or they ain't doing nothing, going up and murders. And ask yourself, why it is at this point in time, opposition will come because the government is supposed to get 100 policemen for each municipal corporation. So far, they had 400, only was able to get at 3. And the opposition is using that to beat the government. Think about this. Why would a man just pull up and shoot at the man going to buy ice? But he working in the airport. The doubles man working in the airport. But why would a man shoot at the man to go to buy ice?
All right. Now, so caller, I say that if it was your wish to call in and speak on these things, fine, no problem. But I don't see. You're starting to convince me that if I one Saturday morning switch on these microphones, and let's say we're doing a program about the atmosphere on the planets Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto, that you will find some way to link it to UNC and PNM and opposition and government. Because for you to take that sociological study on suicide and link it to this political situation, brother, that's okay. All right. Well, thank you for your theory. Thank you for your theory. I appreciate your call. It has a new level, trust me. But thank you for calling. Caller, good morning.
Good morning to you, Brother Mohammed.
Good morning to you, sir.
And this is what we have to listen all week. And I know voices very well. The lady before Batara, if I did call him before Batara and speak about PNM and UNC, that lady would have called and say, oh God, this program is for African thing, that politics. Brother Mohammed, you're right. Everything he turned into UNC and PNM. Not about country or nation building, you know. Nothing about the grandson of the Queen coming here. Nothing about that. But it's about PNM and it's about UNC. That way they're feeding him. And that is what. And I tell him, I said, no intelligent person who study and went to school will sit down and listen to him. Because to me, his son, only education he have is PNM book. He reading.
All right, well, let's not make him too much of a topic, though. Yeah.
But Mohammed, I think that the African community in this country is getting a raw deal. I want to thank Jamaica very much for standing up and lining up and coming up and booing the Queen and them grand family or grandson and the wife of them, booing them, asking them for our money. Today, we make news by the Caribbean say that we need our money. We need, and you know what hurts me the most? Anytime we're speaking about African need money, there'll be always some African to say, we can't forget Indians. We can't forget those two who have been slaves. And I understand that. But what the African community, what my ancestors been through, no other race in the world, been through that. They take with money, they take with land, they take with clothes, they take with language, they take with culture, they take with religion, they take with God. No other race, no other human being been through with the African been through. So when I'm speaking about race as African, I like to state on my people. And it's not to say, oh God, we can't forget all who America and England slaves too. Yes, I understand that too. But we've been through hell and back. The moment, as I close, I want to say this, do you agree with the moment? Oh, let me say this. Do you think it's right what Russia is doing in Ukraine right now as I speak to you? For the moment.
No. I don't believe it's right. However, I don't believe that America and the United Kingdom are right either, because both of them are taking the exact same approach. They're doing the same thing. They're using the same methods. As a matter of fact, not to cut you, but I saw, we've been talking about for years that the CIA in America have created so-called Islamic terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and the Taliban and so on, right? Because when the Mujahideen were in a civil war against Russia in the 1980s, the CIA from America gave weapons to the Muslims to fight against Russia. After that war was over, they became Al-Qaeda. Same thing with ISIS. So those so-called Islamic terrorist groups get their weapons from America. But of course, they don't talk too much about that. But let me just make this point. Let me just make this point real quick. I saw a report on CNN where they were boasting about supplying the Mujahideen with weapons. Why were they boasting about it? Because they were trying to make the point that America has always stood up against Russian barbarism and Russian aggression. So here they are boasting, well, we gave the Taliban weapons to fight against Russia. But they don't realize what they're saying. They created the same terrorists that they're condemning by giving them weapons. And now Russia wants to defend itself because they doesn't want NATO on its border. If China were to set up a missile base on the border of Canada, pointing missiles over to America, wouldn't take it.
You're something like some, my friends and them.
But it's true.
But no, NATO is not on the Russia border. NATO is in Ukraine.
Right. This is why they don't want Ukraine to become a part of NATO.
Okay, but Mama, if use my neighbor and I warn somebody about 4 sheets away. No, you warn at somebody 4 sheets away, right? And they come in my yard. We have a fence. They come in my yard. Why you will feel offended with the person who you warn coming in my yard, speaking to me, lineman with me, wants me to cross your wall or open your gate? Yes, it was a bunch line. And you know something? Right now, America sent troops right around Russian training. And they're not going America. Why go after the small guns? But I must say this. What America do in the Middle East was wrong. And what Russia is doing now is definitely wrong. The people have the land, the people have the culture, and because these same country was with Russia, and they leave Russia and join in NATO, and Russia have to ask why some of them leave them, and only China and Venezuela and India and Pakistan only abstaining when it's time to vote. I don't know why. But Russia has to ask the answer why this country, who was with him, joining NATO. And you know why? They joining NATO to get nuclear weapons. Look, John Kimley now launch a big missile and tell the world, look at me, I have nuclear weapons. So as a close brother, Mohammed, I am praying not for Ukraine. I am praying for the innocent children in Ukraine who are dying.
Absolutely.
I am praying also for the innocent children who die in the Middle East. And I am saying this, in 2022, there's no right for no country. Because if my world president was in power and he do anybody country that, I would disagree with it. Because in 2022, nobody, no country should be going in a man country and say that. Because if we decide to go back Africa, all these white people have to leave, you know. Well, Mohammed, thank you very much, my brother.
Thank you very much. Caller, good morning.
Hello, morning, Brother David.
Good morning, sir.
Just to the listeners, everyone. I just want to agree with you. That would be what? A thesis, a theory, or research.
About what? Suicide?
Yeah.
But that was the first ever sociological research that was done using the scientific method.
Yeah. Excuse me. It don't make sense, Brother David. Because what happened is that, sometimes I have a little piece with you in terms of where you, in terms of including in the development of African people, the economic system of those who we would consider, having agendas against us. They run the economies. And what happened is that part of the spiritual warfare, part of the principality is taking economics and putting it between your actual existence then, which is a code that humanity seems to have some difficulty getting around. The COVID comes to see if they can awaken humanity, say. But I think we're resisting the lessons that would have come out of it now. And I agree with those that research, because if you detach yourself, you think you can go and tell some Rastaman living in Crocus bag, or a Swami living in a cave, or some white person who decide to renounce and head to nature and be in touch with spiritual. You feel you can make them feel bad to tell them, hey, look how you don't have a car. Look how you don't have money. Look how you feel you can go and convince them that their life is horrible. If you understand, you cannot. So right. This is the and I really like the topic this morning. I'm sorry that a lot of time was taken up on other things. Because real talk.
Me
real
too.
talk.
Me too.
We really was to get into this. But I want to close by saying, Brother David, that what happened is the objective view of life have been taken away from us. Part of my peeve with reparations, yes, I understand the money, we could get some trillions, give us access to the land or free up, give us liberation, re-liberation. I agree with that. But somebody needs to ask for at least from the Queen or Russia or Germany, one book, Brother David. A book must be involved, an original book of the real history and the real chronology of it. They have it, They rule the world because they control knowledge. And anytime you control knowledge, you can enslave people. You understand what I'm saying, Brother David? So I really wish you bring back up this suicide topic. I hope I get in, and I hope I interrupt the topic, Brother David. Very interesting. Have a nice day, brother.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful for your call. But unfortunately, this is where I have to leave it for this morning. Yes, the time flies so quickly, but I'll be back on next week, Saturday. Remember, tomorrow morning, I'm lecturing at the Kwame Ture Center, 11 o'clock in the morning. We have a powerful message for us as we prepare for the fasting for the holy month of Ramadan. The first day of fasting is expected to be not tomorrow, but next week, Sunday, inshallah. All right, and, we're going to talk about how not just to prepare for the fast, but to prepare an entire economic system. Stay tuned to Street 919 FM. Assalamu alaikum.
Views expressed are not necessarily